Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Don Maxwell here. I'll be your instructor for Excel 2016. We're going to be covering sorting rows in a table. Why is it important to format your cells as a table? Most people who use Excel knows that Excel has rows and columns similar to a table, but we can further format a table style within Excel. And why would we do that? We do that because we want to treat the data similar to how we treat database records. For example, in a database, we have field names. Like, for example, our labels would be our field names: sales rep, state, January, February, March. Those would be field names. And in our database, we also have records. And in this case, the rows are records. For example, Donna Simpson, New York State, January to the quarter, refund belongs to Donna Simpson's record, right? Or Yvette's Lynn's record. So note that once we invoke or format as a table, we have certain advantages that we do not have in a regular spreadsheet. For example, if I try to format a regular spreadsheet, I can only format a column or a row, and that will interrupt the integrity of the data, because that the column information would change and not match the record. So by invoking or creating a table, I can manage that better. I can then sort on the record and allow the table itself to sort, right? So in our case, we're going to look at header rows. We're going to look at sort. We're going to look at the database comparison, right? So the first thing we want to do is to select the area or the table range. So from A5, right, we're going to click on A5 through H13, right? And that gives us a range of which we want to create a table format. The next thing we know to do is to go to Home, Styles, click on the down arrow, and here we have many different styles: light style, medium style, and dark style. I'm going to be using a medium style, and I'm going to be using the green table style. Now, you can use the blue table style 6, and you can, or the gold, right? But I'm going to be using the green table style medium, and notice that the screen tips tells me the name of the style I'm using, right? And if some of you want to be more adventurous, you can go and create a new table style, right? Obviously, we're not dealing with pivot tables here. We're just dealing with a straight table. All right, so let's go ahead and pick that table style. And note that I have a dialog box here, Format as Table. It gives me the option to go in and change the range if I want. Notice the formula in here. It's simply A5 to H13 using the absolute values, right? And notice the check mark next to my tables. My table has headers. That's important, right? What are the headers? We said these headers would be like field names, right? So sales rep, state, January to March, refund, total sales less refund, commission, those are headers. So we want to tell Excel that our table has headers. So let's go ahead and click OK. All right, so once we do that, we click off, and let's see what happens once we did that. Well, note that we have filter tools appear next to each header label or field names. Now that it is a table, I'm going to call it field names. And note that the rows, the records are in banded colors, right? See that banded colors, right? Some are light and some are darker shade, right? Those are banded colors. Now, in order to look at the design of the table, you must click on the table. Look what happens in your tabs, right? If I click off, design is no longer there, right? But if I click on the table, design appears. See design? Again, off, no design. Click on the table, design appears, right? Now, if I click on design, I'll see that I have some basic tools that I can use. Already you saw the table style that we picked. It's the same table style that we picked from, right? The same table style we picked from, right? But here are some new table style options. First of all, the filter buttons. Again, we showed the filter buttons automatically turned on by the style that we picked, but if you wanted them off, you can take them off, right? They're no longer there, but I needed them there, so I'm going to put them back. In addition to that, we have like first column and last column if we want to identify that, or banded columns if we want to identify that. Well, today we're going to be using header rows. We said our table have header rows, and again, if we remove the header rows, they're gone, right? Say they're gone. If I put them back, right, header rows. And what about banded rows? Banded rows. Again, we talked about the banded rows. So if I remove the banded rows, see, color bands are gone. I put the banded rows, they're back. The other thing that's missing from my table here is the total row. So I'm going to put a total row here. Now, note with the total row, what if I wanted to total all my columns, right? I could simply put my cursor or select the total row, and that makes it active, and therefore I see my fill handle here, right? So I could use my fill handle, right, to fill the data, right? And again, if you're not sure of your total, what that means, again, you can use the you can use the taskbar here, right? All right, so what are we subtotaling here? All right, subtotals. We're subtotaling the commission, right? Total sales. See, we subtotal the total sales, or we subtotal the refund, or the March data, February's data, and January's data. See that? Okay. Now, the other thing that we should note is that once we created a subtotal, we can further filter that subtotal. So if we want to see the subtotal on commission, we want to see the average instead of the total, right? Or we want to see the maximum number in that row, or the minimum number, right? Or the sum, right? Right? Notice that we have the ability to change any one of these, right? Sum, right? I can go here, click down arrow and say, oh, I want to see what is the maximum number in this range, right? Or what is the minimum number in this range, right? So I have the option, and notice the ones that I change have the filter tool next to it, right? Or we'll say, okay, we're just going to sum them all. Sum. Right? And change that to sum. That's sum. Anything here? Need to change the sum here too. Sum. Right? But notice as I have filter handles here, and I can select whatever function that I want, right, to match my data. So that's an added advantage by using a table and putting the subtotals there. Okay, now the thing to note is, what if I wanted to sort my records? Now notice my records are not in any sorted, necessarily any sorted order. New York Florida, California, that's not really sorted, right? Now, I noticed that Donna Simpson is in New York, Yvette is in Florida, and Marlene is in California, right? So that we want to maintain the same if the records are sorted. So let's go ahead and sort by state. Let's go ahead and sort our records by state. Let's click on the down arrow, and we can quickly do a sort. And as the record moved by state, you see that the full record is maintained, right? So that is an advantage to having the table inside your Excel spreadsheet, right? We can keep the data, the records sorted together, not just the column or the field. Okay, the next thing that we want to do is, what if we want to sort multiple field, a field within a field? Right now we have state sorted, but what if we wanted to sort total sales less refund? What if we wanted to sort that within the states? So for example, what I'm saying is, what if I want my Florida, see Florida and Florida, what if I want this smallest to largest? What if I want this record, Jerome Simpson's record, to be the first record instead of Yvette Lynn? How can I do that? Well, I can invoke the sort dialog box. If I go to data and I go to sort, that dialog box will appear. And here, currently I'm sorting by state, A through Z, which is ascending order. But I can add another level. What if I add total sales less refund at field, right? And what if I say I want it to be the smallest to largest, right? So that should change these two records. It should change around Yvette and Jerome, right? All right, so let's go ahead and select that. Oh, just for a second, also note that, you know, the my data has header. Remember that? That's still checked, right? So that's pretty cool. All right, so let's go back and click OK, and we'll see if Jerome now is on top of Yvette, right? So he's the smallest, Yvette is larger. So the data integrity is kept, right? The record integrity is kept, right? So we can have sort within sort. Now, the other tool I want to show you is to look at the filter. Notice there's an up arrow, right, on each of the filter tools to show me that that field is being used in a sort. See that up arrow? That field is being used in a sort, right? Okay, so far you have learned a couple of new terms, the tables, format tables, and you've learned about sorting, ascending or descending, and how we can sort the data while keeping it together like a database. You've heard about the fields, the field names, or what we normally call in Excel the labels, right? So now when we invoke a table, we can call it field names because they're like field names in a database. We can also look at our records in rows, right? So fields are columns, records are rows, right? And it's important to note that your records are kept in the integrity is kept on those records, that the columns or the rows are not shuffled around in the wrong order, but they are kept in the right order simply because we're using the table format, right? So fields, records, sort, and database, right? And of course, being able to use the fill handle, right? And select whichever function you want when using the design total row, right? The design total row, right? So we saw how we can use the table style options as well. Okay. All right. So remember that we can use fill handles. And the other thing I must mention to you guys is the filter, if you did your table style and you want to undo it, you have to go to your quick access toolbar and undo it immediately after you create it, right? Because if you do save it, it's saved as a table now, so you can't really undo that because you already save it as a table, right? So you have the option of going to undo it before you save, right? So I can undo everything before I save and redo everything, but once I save it, my table will be saved as a table, right? Okay, any questions? Great. Good job, guys. I am very proud of you. You're working hard and you're going to be Excel experts. This is just one other topic in Excel that you have now mastered. Sorting rows in a table. Okay? I'll see you in another module. Have a good afternoon.